how to set breakpoints in your code in order to pause and execute your code. So sometimes in your code, you might want to pause a code from running at a particular point in time. When you want to achieve something like this, usually turn to breakpoints to help you achieve something like this in JavaScript. In debugger window, which comes with each of the browser, you can set breakpoints in your JavaScript code. And at each breakpoint, JavaScript will stop executing and let you examine JavaScript value. Then after you examine value, you can resume the execution of code, typically with a play button. Let's take a look at an example of how you can use breakpoints. So I will wipe this example and then I will make it. And I will close my console. Now, so let me make a function that adds two numbers together and call it add A and B. Now, I want to assign the output from that into the result variable, and then I can return results. So outside of my function, I can begin to call this function and pass any values into it. So I want to add five function calls. You can see each of the 5 function calls and their outputs. Now, how do I set a breakpoint on each of these? Or how do I set breakpoints in JavaScript code? Let's quickly take a look at how we can do that. So I want to open my developer tools by pressing function F12. Function F12. This will open the debugger tool directly, or I can right click on inspect, and then search for debugger. And inside debugger, let me maximize this so that you can see it clearly. I want to look for sources. And if you look at sources, you can see that there's nothing here, right? Let me refresh. Now, in my sources, you can see that I now have the code of what I have on the screen. Now, these are my function where I am calling what I add inside the function and passing variables or parameters or data inside of them. Now, if I click on this line number now, I can add a breakpoint. You can see that when I added this, look at this right hand side. You can see that it shows something like a pause button, which is this, which means that if I refresh now, let's take a look. You can see that nothing is showing because what? My execution has been paused. You can see that message that debugger paused. Now, if I want to resume my code back, I just only need to click back on that line. And now if I refresh, it's even refreshing automatically. If I press the play button, take a look, we can see that my values are back. So if I click any of this line of code, it will pause execution. And anytime you try to refresh, I just post another line. So when you need to continue, you just press the play button and then you can see that my code and the results has returned back on the screen. So this is how you can use the breakpoints inside the debugger to pause code execution in JavaScript so that you can examine values, especially if you are trying to debug or find the solution to whatever issue you might come across or run across in your code. Now let's look at the debugger keyword. The debugger keyword stops the execution of JavaScript, which is that screen covering like an overlay that we saw just now, and calls if available the debugging function. So This has the same function as setting a breakpoint in the debugger. If no debugging is available, the debugger statement has no effect. With the debugger turned on, in this example, we will see that this code will stop executing before it executes the top line. Let's look at that example. So let me make a variable x and say 15 times 5. This is my variable, right? Then let me add debugger because I want to stop executing the code execution. I want to stop it before it executes the third line. Now let me try to get the value. Now you can see this is 75, right? Now let me now pull up again my debugger function F12 to open console, and then I'll refresh it. And now you can see this code is paused already. If I want it to show, then I'll click play. So anytime I refresh, it will pause because I'm setting that debugger keyword after my expression. I'm saying that pause this code and don't execute the third line, which means don't execute this line that follows this debugger keyword. So this debugger will prevent this line from being executed, and that is why you are seeing it showing like this. You can see it keeps rolling, but yet the code is paused in my code editor. So when execution is paused, you can control how the code runs. You can step over to run the next line. You can step into to enter a function, and you can also step out to exit the current function. Step slowly and watch how value changes. So this is how you can use debugger to achieve the purpose of troubleshooting and understanding values and what is happening in your code.